Dickey here, and got queued up here a video from Dave Ramsey. Not trying to point out on Dave Ramsey here, but I do have a couple of issues with what he's talking about here. And one of the things he does talk about, I would highly suggest you listen to the video. I'm not going to play it on here for you, but my question on it, and he continues to push this issue. He keeps saying that the Bible says that the borrower is slave to the lender. So don't borrow, don't borrow, don't borrow. And I get that, and that I understand his point. One of the things I love that he talks about, and I have told my clients this for years, that if you can't afford a payment on 15 years, you can't afford the house. Okay. So he does tell people that even though he does not borrow money anymore, that it's okay for his system for you to borrow money to buy a house as long as it's less than 25% of your pay and you pay it off in 15 years. So I like that. It's a great thought process. So that's perfect. What I have a problem with is that here's a client who called him up. They make a lot of money, 260 grand a year, and they're renting, and they've been renting for a year, and they paid off $115,000 worth of student loan debt, which fantastic, happy for them. That's great. And now they're going to save for another 3 years, continuing to rent. And their question is do they save 6 years to pay cash for a house? Or do they save for 3 years for 50% down and continuing to rent? Now, my issue with this is really quite simple. Is not renting borrowing? And again, maybe I'm just looking at this the wrong way, because if you're a slave to a lender, then you're slave to your landlord. I don't look at them any different. In my opinion, I don't think you're slave to a lender. And again, I think I don't want to go into the weeds on that whole part of it. My problem is that for most people, owning a home long-term, as long as that's your goal. Now, I want to set a couple of ground rules here. I think we've misunderstood what the whole point of buying a home is. Buying a home is so that at some point the home is actually paid off and you own it and you don't have to rent from anyone anymore, and you have security because you own your house. And I think that should be the end all be all. Now, it is not a store of value. It is not an investment. Now, again, I'm not talking about flipping homes. I'm talking about your main house, and what the majority of us just buy. So don't confuse the two. Investing in real estate and buying real estate and flipping is a whole nother, again, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your main house and what the average person is trying to go out and have a home. But most of us have missed this part. We continue to look at our house, and we don't buy a house to pay it off and live in it. We buy a house, we live in it for 4 or 5 years, we pay a mortgage on it for 4 or 5 years, we buy a bigger, better one. Then we buy a bigger, better, we buy a bigger, better. And we just constantly go through this. And again, I'm not beating that up, I'm not pushing on it. But my point is that there's really no difference in renting and borrowing to buy a house, other than you get nothing after renting the house. At least after buying the home and paying on a mortgage, you've got it. Now, one of this guy's concerns was his kids. And if you wait 6 more years, his daughter's going to be 13 years old, and changing school systems, if he has to go to, a different school system is problematic. And he's not wrong. And moving the kids to a different neighborhood. And they made a comment on here that, oh, kids are resilient or whatever. Have any of you ever had a kid that you moved them from a different school district, moved them from a subdivision or that you were in, and they lost all their kids, moved them across state line? I mean, whatever. I mean, if anybody's ever done it, forget the resilient part. I can give you thousands of examples where it was just horrible on the kids. Now, I'm not saying, it happens every day. I'm not complaining. But if you truly have a choice and you've got kids that are just now starting school, and you can buy a house in the district that you want them to be in a subdivision that you want them to be in so they can actually go to school with them for the whole time, highly recommend it. It's far better for the kids than moving them from a different school district, especially when they're starting going into high school or middle school or any one of them, frankly. Set your roots, get it down. So my issue with this is simply, if you're renting, you're renting. Okay, there's no difference. You're borrowing from somebody to rent the house to where you got, and you have to live somewhere, and you have to start somewhere. Unless you're just going to stay with your parents until you save up enough money that you could buy a house. If that's your plan, okay, great. But the majority of us, that's really not an option. So I'd rather you get into the home, you put your 20% down, you get into the house, and you move on. You're still paying it off in 15 years. These people are 30 years old. There's literally nothing wrong with putting 20% down, getting into a home, paying it off in 15 years when you're 30, because you'll be done by 45. Not an issue. He only pushes them to pay it off in 6 years. And hey, if you want to do that, that's great. And again, most of you you've talked to me long enough. If you've seen my videos much, I'm not big on that. I mean, if you want to do it, that's great. I'd rather difference. If you're paying it off in 15 years, you really don't need to go any harder at that. It shouldn't be the goal. The goal is to pay your house off in a reasonable period of time. Also enjoy your life. If you're working so darn hard and you're not enjoying it, you're not able to go camping with your kids, you're not able to take your kids and go on vacations and enjoy life. I know, this becomes a big issue, but it really shouldn't be, because time is the new wealth. And what you do with your time is the most important thing. And I tell you what, I don't know anyone who sat back afterwards and said, darn it, I spent too much time with my family on their deathbed. Never seen anybody do it. Find a way to have balance. Find a way to do it all because you can. And then these folks are making $260,000 a year. I'm telling you, there's no reason they can't do it all. And maybe they are. And maybe they can pay it off in 6 years. That's wonderful. But that wouldn't be my first plan. My first plan is to make sure they'd have life insurance in case something happens to him, because he's making $260,000 a year. And maybe it was joint. He didn't say that. But if it's just him and he passes away, where are we going with that? So we need some life insurance. There's a bigger financial plan that needs to be done here. But my point is that if for 6 years they're paying rent, it's going nowhere. Whereas if they bought a house as quickly as they could, those extra 3 years, the rent wouldn't be going away. It'd be going to principal, it'd be going to net worth, it'd be going to value. Especially if they're paying it off in 6 years, maybe it'd be 9 years after that, but it'd be the same time frame. Because if you buy the house 6 years from now and you pay it off in 6 years, that's 12 years. So if you wait 3 years and you buy the house, you pay it off in 15. I mean, again, we're really splitting hairs here. So again, my point is, there is no difference. Get into the house, pay it off in 15 years, you're going to be in fantastic shape. But you're also going to be in a situation where you have some money that you can actually enjoy life. So have the balance in life. That's all I'm talking about. Dickey out.